Chapter 6. Changes in Direction. The three bankers were clearly not fighters. Half of their punches lacked any sort of power, or simply failed to do anything but glance off Jax's defenses. He sent one of them into the crowd of bar patrons with a roundhouse that left the man spinning, knocking over a table, and sending the occupants scattering. Those occupants launched into the fight, tackling the banker who knocked over their table, while the next table over attacked the first table's occupants over spilled beer. Things escalated quickly from there, turning the entire bar into a knot of flying fists and beer bottles. A meaty paw landed on Jax's shoulder. The owner pulled, spinning Jax around, right into a cross he was certain was going to leave him with a black eye. Jax hit the ground, rolling away from his attacker. When he got back to his feet and looked around, whoever had slugged him wasn't pressing their attack. The brawl spilled out onto the rainy street outside the Rusty Swordfish. Jax had completely lost track of the trio he initially was fighting, but more than a few dozen others had had no problem stepping in for them. To his surprise, he wasn't the only indie, or at least indie-sympathetic, patron in the bar. After being knocked to the rain-covered ground and rolling away from a kick, Jax looked around, surprised to see that in the fighting's course he had retreated out the door into the street. The rain was still pounding the sidewalk. He cursed, realizing that his umbrella was likely still leaning against the bar under where he had been sitting. He stood and looked around, dodging a pair of men slugging it out, oblivious to their surroundings. Jax was about to head back into the bar when the bartender stepped out into the rain, a plasma rifle in his arms. He raised the weapon and fired a single shot into the air. "All right, you assholes," he shouted. When the crowd didn't immediately settle, the bartender fired another round into the air. "Next one goes into one of you." That got everyone's attention. One of the brawlers pushed past Jax. "What the hell, Waldo?" "Waldo?" Jax sneered. The armed bartender looked at him, shifting his grip on the rifle. Jax raised both hands. "Sorry," the bartender said. "I just got off the comms. Old Town is flooding. People are going to be trapped in their homes." He looked around the crowd. "Since you all swarmed out into the street, technically leaving your tabs, I have your details on file. If you don't want me sending it to the authorities, you'll march your asses over to the old commons." He looked around the crowd. "No!" There was a lot of grumbling until the armed bartender, Waldo, let everyone hear the rifle charging. Jax rubbed his face and fell in with a crowd of over 100 people. How had there been that many in the bar before the fight started? He sidled up to Waldo, still holding his rifle. "I don't understand." The surly bartender looked at him. "Old Town is the original colony landing site. It's mostly empty now, save for the poor and homeless and those who can't afford to live in the glass towers, of course. Slums, shanties, and everything in between." Jax remembered the concierge's words regarding the location of the Rusty Swordfish. "But why us?" Jax gestured to the ragged, water-logged crowd, marching down the road. "The civil authorities will probably show up. If they do, it'll be ours. People will die." That was all Jax needed to hear. He nodded. "Got it. Let's go." The crowd angled off the road and ended up in a sodden field with the remains of a gazebo or something in the center. "Okay, everyone, listen up," someone with a voice amplifier shouted. "The senior center and the shelter are our first priorities." Jax looked around, wiping his hair from his eyes. He had lost track of Waldo. The voice continued. "After that, we need to go door to door." Jax found a group that was heading off and joined them. "I'm new here. How can I help?" A man at least twice Jax's age said, "Come with us. We're going to start door to door. Another group is already on their way to the shelter and senior center." He pointed. The old colony area had far fewer functional streetlights than Titan City proper. "We're heading Garrison Street first." Jax and two others took one side of the street, as the older man and three others took the other side of the street. Jax pounded on a door that was welded into the side of a shipping container. The sound echoed into the night as he pounded on the door one more time. There were no windows. He had no way of knowing if anyone was home. The door swung in to reveal a scrawny man in a ratty robe. "What?" he shouted to be heard over the wail of the wind and rain. Jax hitched a thumb over his shoulder. "This area flooding, you gotta get out of here." The man looked over Jax's shoulder and nodded. Jax didn't wait. He moved toward the next building, another structure made of cargo containers. This one was 3 of them, 2 on the bottom and 1 making a second floor. He looked up the street. His 2 associates were several doors down. Wrong door. 2 hours later, Jax was still banging on doors. If it was possible to be more soaked than he was when he started this adventure, that was his current state. The storm was still raging, and lightning was dancing across the sky, accompanied by ear-splitting cracks of thunder. As far as he could tell, it had not let up even the slightest since they arrived on the planet. The door opened into a brightly lit living space. The blinding light framed a ruggedly built man. A very naked, ruggedly built man. "What?" Jax backed up. Dude." He found something to look at in the sky, squinting against the raindrops pummeling his eyes. "You gotta get out of here. The storm ain't letting up. This entire area is gonna be underwater." He glanced down, eyebrow raising. "Put on pants." At the end of the street, a flatbed hover truck slid into view, already half full of people who had fled their homes. A pair of men came towards Jax. "Come on, man. They need some help on the next block." He fell in with them. As they slogged through the mostly muddy street, Jax asked, "What's the deal here?" Water was up to his shins. The Asian man to his left said, "When you can't afford one of those," he gestured through the rain to the glittering towers of downtown Titan City, "you end up off-world, if you're lucky. Or here," the other man added. "Old Town takes everyone." Jax shuddered, not because of the cold, though he was freezing. It had to be well past midnight. When they reached their destination, the Asian man divvied up sections of the block for them all to tackle. A hover truck was rumbling nearby, likely waiting for residents. This section of Old Town was a significantly lower elevation than the block he had just been working. Water was pooling everywhere, and in most places was up to Jax's knees even in the street. He waded toward his first house. Like most of Old Town, it was made of colonial cargo containers welded together. This one was made up of 2 large metal rectangles, with one sitting atop. A luxury dwelling by the standards of Old Town. He pounded on the door. It echoed a deep rattle, metal against metal. The door opened, and the barrel of a blaster rifle stuck out, stopping inches from Jax's face. A hand reached out and grabbed the front of his soaking wet t-shirt, yanking him into the dwelling. Lightning arced across the sky, followed by thunderous booms. "This is unexpected." "Whoa!" Jax said as the hand dragged him into the structure. He hit the ground, splashing into the standing water that filled the room. Getting to his knees, he looked around. Several men and women surrounded him, all armed. One woman leaned down, putting a blaster pistol under Jax's nose. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Jax's eyes darted around the room. Lots of guns. "I'm just here helping evacuate Old Town." He splashed one hand. "Kind of flooding." "What do we do with him?" one man asked, looking out a narrow window at the raging storm outside. "It's getting bad out there." Lightning lit up the sky. "We can't stay here," a woman said, entering the room. "Not if they're evacuating everyone. We'll draw attention." "Look, guys, I'm not from here. I don't know what the hell all this is, and honestly, I don't care," Jax tried to explain. "I was just trying to help folks." He looked around. "You see, I was in this bar fight. Some knucklehead Imperial sympathizers were celebrating Uni Day early, and, well," he smiled. "One thing led to another, and it was a brawl. A really good one, if I'm being honest. Then, all of a sudden, 'Shut up!' the woman with the pistol shouted. She turned to the others. "Tie him up and bring him along. We'll let the commander decide what to do with him." One of the other women reached for Jax's wrists. She produced a plastic zip tie and bound his wrists behind his back. She guided him to a sofa and pushed him down. The sodden material squished. "Stay!" While he sat there, the storm raged outside. Thunder rumbled across the sky, shaking the metal container home. He watched the occupants move quickly through the rooms, kicking water up. Several brought large crates down from the upstairs area. "What is this?" he asked out loud before thinking better of it. A pair of men in worn fatigues were moving a box that looked suspiciously like the box that one might keep rifles in. They looked over. One of the two men said, "The more questions you ask, the more likely you are not to live through this." Thunder cracked outside. Jax closed his eyes and leaned back on the sofa. It made a soggy, squishing sound. Jax sat on the sofa for what felt like forever, but was probably an hour, until the woman who had bound his wrists came into the room. "Come on, Boy Scout." She reached out and grabbed his shirt, helping him up and stretching the fabric, and wringing rain out of it. She let go, but the sodden fabric did not bounce back. "Guess I'll get a new shirt later," he said, looking down at the stretched-out neck. He followed her out of the living room into a back room with a large roll-up door. All the boxes he had seen the group moving around were now stacked along the walls. The large roll-up door opened, revealing a waterlogged alley that looked like a river. A wheeled transport vehicle was standing in water now almost up to the middle of the wheels. Water rushed into the garage space. The assorted men and women began loading the crates into the transport, splashing water as they worked. Jax watched until they were done, and the woman from before pushed him toward the transport. Jax took a deep breath and stepped into the rain between the building and the vehicle. Two men in the transport lifted him up into the vehicle. He looked around. People and cargo crates filled the transport. "You guys all from around here, or—" No reply. He shrugged. "Anyone got the time?" Still no reply. A man across from him leaned forward, causing Jax to lean forward to hear what he was about to say. Instead, a meaty fist struck him in the temple, knocking him out cold. Manhunt. The door to the suite opened. "Oh, good morning, Naomi," Jeffrey said. He stepped aside to allow her entry into the suite the hotel had assigned him and Governor Singh. She walked in and looked around. "Jax isn't here?" Jeffrey shook his head. Governor Singh walked out of one of the bedrooms. "Oh, good morning, dear." "Morning, Governor. Have you seen or heard from Jax?" Naomi asked. She walked over to the window. "Great view." Jeffrey helped the governor assemble her large handbag, adding several tablets from the dining room table. He looked up at Naomi. "We've been here working, haven't seen him." He gestured to the table, room service container still sitting out. "We ordered in after the reception. Horrible food." "The worst," Governor Singh agreed. Naomi tapped the glass. "When I got in this morning, he wasn't in the suite, and it didn't look like he'd slept in his bed." "When you got in this morning?" the governor repeated. "So your bed hasn't been slept in either?" Naomi blushed. "Well—" Suddenly the ceiling was very interesting. "I'm just giving you a hard time. You and Jax are grown adults." The small Indian woman chuckled as she shrugged her purse onto her shoulder. She paused, then slipped it off and handed it to Jeffrey. She turned to Naomi. "He probably found a different bed to sleep in. I'm sure he'll turn up. He always does." "Yeah, maybe," Naomi admitted. She headed for the door. "Okay, thanks. You two have fun at your summit." The governor clucked. "Oh, yes. 8 hours of the Emperor making sure we know how big his dick is. Can't wait." She turned to her assistant. "Let's go, Jeffrey. We don't want to be late." The young man nodded to Naomi as he and the governor left the suite. Naomi pulled her G-phone out of her pocket. "Hey, Skip." She left the suite, headed for the elevators. "Yes, Naomi," the sapient intelligence of the Osprey replied. "Have you guys heard from Jax? He didn't come home last night?" "Negative. We haven't heard from the captain since you all departed. How is everything going, his missing notwithstanding?" Naomi smiled, knowing that the ship loved hearing from Rudy and Baxter about the outside world during jobs. This time the other two bots were stuck aboard the ship with him. So far, so good. You get your wormhole generator fixed? The engineering team is coming today, the ship's SI replied. I'm not thrilled about strangers crawling around inside me, but what are you going to do? She nodded, stepping into the elevator. That's a disturbing image. Good to hear. Oh, can you ping his G-phone? This time it was Rudy who answered. 1 second. The lift doors parted, and she walked into the lobby of the Imperial guest house. Outside, the storm was still raging. Lightning lit up the sky. Naomi, it looks like he's someplace called Old Town, Rudy said. He added, his last stop was a bar called the Rusty Swordfish. Need me to send you map data? She shook her head. No, I'm good. Thanks. I'll see what I can find. Thanks, guys. Have fun with the engineering team. Don't get into trouble. She hung up. She had the concierge hail her a cab and was on her way to the Rusty Swordfish within minutes. The cabbie looked over his shoulder. Mind if I ask why you want to go to Old Town? Especially now? The storm's got to have most of it hip-deep in water now. Naomi was looking out the windows at the rain slashing the cab and pooling in every low spot on the street. She turned forward. I can't find my friend, and his last known location was the bar before his signal went into Old Town. The man shrugged. Good luck. As the cab drove, cinder block buildings and what looked like hundreds of years old prefab colonial construction replaced the glitter of downtown and its entertainment districts and commercial towers. The cab came to a stop in front of a nondescript building with a large rusting fish sculpture mounted on the exterior. We're here, the cabbie said. Naomi looked around. This is it? The man nodded. Yeah, he pointed. That's the Rusty Swordfish. If your friend was here last night, they may know what happened to him. He pointed off into the warren of decrepit buildings. That's Old Town. She thanked and paid the cabbie. The door to the bar was locked. She banged on it, hoping someone was around. She huddled under her umbrella until the sound of a locking bar disengaging rang out, and the heavy 10-foot-tall door opened a crack. We open at 5. I'm looking for a friend, Naomi said. She held up her G-phone with a picture of Jax eating a hot dog in an immensely unflattering way. Oh, that asshole. He started a fight with a bunch of local tool bags, the face in the door's gap replied. Naomi nodded. Sounds right. Do you know where he went or what happened? Lightning cracked behind her, near enough that she jumped. The face, a man she was pretty sure, said, Yeah, we got a call that the flooding in Old Town had gotten bad. I roped the brawlers into a work gang. A hand jutted out, pointing. I didn't see him after we all got to the field. Naomi looked down the road, then back to the door. Okay. Thank you. The man on the other side of the door said nothing, closing and relocking the door. She pulled her G-phone out of her pocket. Skip, can you send me the locator data on Jax's phone? Of course. Do you mind if I ask what for? The Osprey's SI asked. I can reprogram my phone to ping his and help me narrow down his location, Naomi said. Good idea, the SI replied. Her phone beeped, announcing the incoming data packet.